Hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host, O'Neill, and today my guest is Robert Picart, affectionately known as Twin. Um, I've known Robert for quite a while, him and his brother. But the stories I could tell you about Robert are endless. But this is one of my closest and good friends, and I'm so happy to have him on today to talk about or to speak about his whole journey in being an author. And he just did a book, and it's out. And I'll let him talk about it a little bit more. What the book is, the name of the book, and we're going to go through how did he get there and his passion for writing. So, Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, brother. This is good.
Good. Yeah. So, in regards to the introduction of you and what you've done, can you just give us? We're going to talk about your book, so I want you to just give us a little bit of introduction of you in terms of how you got there, and what did that look like for you now to be a published author?
Well, the book was actually, I kind of tumbled into the book, to be honest with you. So I'll back up a little bit. So if you think about when COVID started, so COVID was going on, I don't know if that was 2001, 21, I guess. And so one of the things that I was concerned about was the fact that COVID was really claiming a lot of our elders. They were getting sick. Some of them had passed away. And I knew that, it could happen to anyone. Knew a lot of these nursing homes were, and retirement homes were really getting ravaged. And, it was just really precarious when COVID was at its height. And so I was mindful of that. And I said, I really want to, anything could happen to anyone, including mom. And I said, let's see if we can capture some things. You never know. Let's just try and capture some things. So what ended up happening was we ended up being on the phone talking. I talked to her all the time. So I started recording our conversations. And I really wasn't trying to do anything other than just record stories. And then maybe I'd edit it into some sort of podcast or just some sort of something to have for prosperity or whatever. But as we went through the process, she started telling me things I had never heard before and telling stories that I'd never heard before. And at the end of it, we ended up having about, maybe 4 or 5 hours of raw audio. And as I listened to it back, I was like, there's a story here that needs to be articulated. And so the podcast kind of evolved into some sort of framing of a book. And then it just became providence that I got hooked up with a friend of mine in Atlanta, and became part of a sort of authors incubator through Georgetown University, and kind of tumbled my way to writing out this story. I mean, I've always wanted to write a book. I didn't know what the book was going to be, but I was blessed with this inspiration to be able to do this one. So I'm happy about it.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I wanted to know, is this something that you've always wanted to do, like write a book?
Yeah.
Or is it something you talked about earlier, how you stumbled on it, but how did you get inspired? Obviously it's by your mom.
Right.
What's the name of the book?
The book's called Goddie. It's a biographical novel. And it's so the inspiration part. So I always wanted to write a book, but I didn't know what the book was going to be. And I didn't want to just write a book for book's sake. I wanted something to say. And so I've always been patient with the idea of writing something because I want to write something that's meaningful. And so when the idea came around and the inspiration came around to actually put it into a story and into a book, the story was so powerful that the story started almost writing itself. And then part of it, honestly, was my mom had gone through such a trauma and such a life experience. At this point, she would have been, I guess, maybe 93. I wanted her to see her life and to see what it was opened out in front of her. And so the book, I would say at the time, was 85%, I want to write this for my mom, and 15%, if somebody else reads it, that's fine too. And so, and that's how I kind of went at it. It wasn't for commercial purposes or, to make a bucket of money. It was just more about, let's see if I can do this and accomplish this goal. And then let's see if I can do something to pay tribute to my mom. And that was the motivation and the inspiration behind it.
Okay, because that's interesting, because a lot of times when, people whether they're into photography or they want to write a book or
Mhm.
things like that, there's
Mhm.
always this consideration of the audience and what they would think. But
Yeah.
from you, that was never the
No.
case.
No. The only thing I wanted to do with the book was to make sure that I got it culturally and historically accurate. And so, as I was writing and doing the research for the book, I had to lean on cousins in Jamaica. I had to lean on research about Jamaica at that time in 1929 and 1949 and what was going on economically, what was going on culturally, politically. And then I had to obviously rely on her words from the podcast and make sure that I was getting it right. And then there was little things like leaning on my cousins to say, hey, what did the kitchen look like? What did the house look like? How far was the school from the no? So to get the details right so that I could make sure that I pay tribute properly.
Right. So getting all that texture, all those
Mm-hmm.
little details, and that required a lot of time. So I assume you did some traveling
Yes.
to Jamaica.
Yes. I had been to Jamaica before and I'd been growing up. So I had a sort of mental visual as to what I wanted to do. But because I didn't grow up in Jamaica, there are some cultural nuances that just weren't ingrained. And so I had to make sure that I was saying things properly, that things were historically correct, and not saying things that weren't either invented or were not even available at that time. And I'm like writing about stuff that would make it clear that I don't know what I'm talking about. Because one thing about West Indians and Caribbean people as well, we're very proud people, and we want things to be accurate. And so I wanted to make sure that that was the case, or else I knew the story would be discounted. So
So you went to Jamaica, you got some historic, you wanted to make sure that the facts, and I think hopefully all authors that are doing stuff,
mm-hmm.
writing about people and biographies, I hope that they do make sure that they get facts. But we're
Yeah.
living in a world right now where
Facts don't matter.
facts don't matter.
Right.
And so it's always good to hear that that's being done. So, um, so when you were writing this book, did you
Mhm.
have any mentors? Did you have anybody to really guide you? Because you never your background, and I know a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
You were involved in business.
Mm-hmm.
You were a business person,
Right.
and so can you just touch on that a little bit, like how
Um,
that transition happened, and did you have mentors or
to kind of craft the story, you mean?
just craft the stories? But how did you just get out of? Because I know you were in logistics before. I know you ran your own business.
Mm-hmm.
You did all these things, and then to move into an area, you did it because you wanted to honor your mother and you wanted
Yeah.
to capture that. But it is
It's a shift.
It is a shift.
Um, I would say that it's a shift, but I would say that there's always been a sort of creative strain that I've had. And so whether it was photography or being a part of music groups or running a choir for 10 years, or drawing or painting, there's always been a creative strand that's been in me.
Because I know, and not to cut you off, I
No,
know
you're
that
fine.
you're an artist. I know that you can draw.
Mm-hmm.
You sing. You had
Mhm.
your own group. You were part of a choir. You did a lot of artistic type of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I knew that I could express myself in the right way. So that to that extent, I think I was comfortable. It was really about more the structure of a book and how to, what sounds good in my head may not translate to the page appropriately. So being able to get that guidance from a team that would allow me to extract how I feel, but do it in a way that others will feel the same as well, took training and guidance and, quite frankly, a team. So I had to be clear about that as I went on this journey. I couldn't be selfish in that regard because, reality is there's an old adage, no man is an island. And so you have to really connect with people who know better. Even though they may not know Jamaican culture, they know what a good book looks like. And you had to lean on that to be able to allow them to structure it for you. So,
Okay. So you had a team. I know that we spoke off camera before about you enrolling in a class
right.
and a network that you had.
Right. So what happened was, so the idea of the book was percolating. It wasn't really much of anything. I was still kind of in podcast mode. But so I live in Atlanta, and there's a place in Atlanta called The Gathering Spot in Midtown that's run by some brothers for the last few years. And, it's a networking workspace place that people come together and create community. And I was introduced to a friend of mine, and she recommended me to a program that's run by Georgetown University that basically is an incubator that turns basically people into authors. And so I submitted my idea, and long story short, I was accepted, and I went through a bit of a program, a bit of a meat grinder process, if you will, to turn me into a writing person, a writer. And I was successful with that, and was able to be referred on to New Degree Press, and was able to build a team that would allow me to put the book together. And so that's how it kind of came about, being able to express what I wanted to say with this story. And I think for many people, they took an affinity to the story about a young girl who's watched her parents die at a young age within 6 months of each other, and her siblings send her away, and she goes through this constant tumbling and restarting of life over and over again. It's an interesting take because a lot of people go through that same type of journey. And so it's because of that story, people kind of took to it and helped me put it together.
So it's important. There is a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you said earlier, no man's an island. Like,
Yeah.
you need the support. And that, I didn't realize all that until we started talking about what it took and the support that you needed or had
You're right.
to help you get to where you are right now. So during the whole creative process, let's talk about that a little bit. What was that like? Are you someone who thinks of an idea, you go to the gathering and you put it down, and then do you share it with others that may not be part of the team, but for example, like your brother or a close friend or wife, do you share it and get feedback? Does that even matter to you?
In the beginning, no. I mean, they were aware that I was writing a book, but it wasn't like I write 2 pages and I share it with them and ask them what they think. I think you put yourself in a very unfortunate position if you start doing that. I wanted to put a book out the way I felt it, and put a book out that would resonate with me. And so there's a certain sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but there's a certain type of sort of hibernation that you go into, even if it's mentally, where you stow yourself away and you just focus on this one idea. And so while I was, hibernating, if you will, that in and of itself is its own process, because I had to struggle with imposter syndrome. I had to struggle with, imposter syndrome as an author, imposter syndrome as a Canadian trying to write about a Jamaican story, imposter syndrome as someone who's never written a book before. Now you're trying to write a book that's going to really hit. And so all those things you have to struggle with, and you have to struggle with them on your own, because sharing that idea, number one, my mom taught me a long time ago, you don't say everything to everybody, and I wanted to make sure that this book had my own voice. So I had to kind of stow away and just create it in my voice. And then we'll figure out what it looks like afterwards. So that was kind of my creative process. And once I got to a certain point where I needed some editorial help, then I started reaching out and saying, hey, check this out, to get perspective. But when you're in the initial percolating of the idea, it's a very lonely and turbulent process, because you're fighting yourself, you're fighting your ideas, you're fighting the ideology versus the reality of creation. There was a time where I think I had a deadline. We started in October of 21, I think. And I had to have 10,000 words written by the end of the year. So this is October. It was December 15th. I hadn't written one word. And because I was stuck, I didn't know how to begin this story. Like, the first paragraph is what people read, and will determine whether they read the next 366 pages. And so I was stuck for a long time. And it wasn't until maybe the few days before Christmas, I was just percolating it. And then the sentence just came up about the morning breeze. And then I started writing about what it felt like to wake up on a Caribbean island, and just started writing. And it went from there. And then I ended up writing the whole book outside of editorial. I ended up writing the whole book in 4 months nonstop.
So when it hits you, it hits you.
Yeah, that's the thing about creative. And some of the best songs, some of the best pieces of art are usually done within 5 minutes. or 15 minutes.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
You know, some of the greatest hits were done within minutes. They just wrote it like on a napkin in a diner somewhere and then went back and recorded it, and it's a monster hit. And I understand that because when I finally got inspired, I started cranking out the story like a chapter a day. Yeah. I would write until way in the morning, 2 a.m, get up 6 a.m, write some more, go to work, come back, write some more. Because what you don't want to do is when inspiration hits you, you realize that it's just like lightning in a bottle. You have to get it out or you could very well forget it. And so there were times where I was driving and I would be inspired and I have to put my phone recorder on to say the idea on the phone to capture it so that when I get home, I can play it back and be like, okay, write this part. And so when you have something that's inspiring, you have to capture it or else your mind will deceive you.
And, just going back when you talk about hibernation and when you get inspired, because that's a pretty lengthy period where, you're supposed to get started and the inspiration didn't hit you for a while. And I think people have to be, that are looking to do what you are doing or what you have done, is to be mindful of that. Like there's a lot of individuals that are looking and wanting to know, okay, this is something I want to do, but what is it really like? And when you talk about hibernation, which I think is a good point. When you talk about when inspirations hit you, what you need to do right away. When you talk about, really not listening to outside voices and just focusing, imposter syndrome, these are things that I think are nuggets and valuable for individuals that are ever thinking of doing what you did.
You have to be prepared to be lonely for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a Christian person. I come from a Christian background. And if you know anything about some of the greatest Bible heroes, they all go through some sort of hibernation process. And so whether you're talking about Moses, whether you're talking about Jesus, whether you're talking about any major Bible hero, there's a sojournment that they all go through, whether it's a physical one or just a mental one, that where they go through some sort of journey and then they come out of the end of it with some sort of idea or some sort of inspiration or instruction. I understand that. I identify with that because what I mean, not to say I'm some sort of biblical hero, but just to talk about the point that you have to kind of go through some sort of change and inspiration on your own in order to really percolate an idea and allow that to really drive who you are. And you're not there listening to anybody else. You're not trying to take instruction. You want to get factually things right, but how you want that story to unfold is your creation. And I took that very seriously. And for me, it was always about making sure that I paid honor to my mom. I didn't want to write trash. This wasn't a throwaway story. This was my mom's story. And if she read it and said, this was wrong,
right,
then that's no good. I just wasted my time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was very sensitive to that reality.
Mm-hmm.
I would say any person that is a serious creator, artist, if you're an entrepreneur, when you're thinking about that business idea, there's a hibernation, there's a thinking, there's a stewing that happens. The best soups are ones that are simmering slowly. And so, as you add all these, mental ingredients into your creation pot and start stirring that around, at some point it simmers and the seasonings get into the water and everything starts to move together. And that's when the creation comes into play. And even as chef, you're not here to take advice from people. You're just here to create this one thing and allow it to speak for itself. And so that's really what I tried to do. I took the ingredients of my history, I took the ingredients of my mother's history, my own intellect, and allowed that to percolate in a way that created a story that would resonate with people.
Wow. I've never heard that. That describes it pretty well.
Yeah.
That's really good. Gives people a really good understanding of what that is.
I'll say one more thing. You have to be there's a certain element of the journey where you have to be 100% selfish. And what I mean by that is when you're creating things, when you're in the creative process, songwriting or whatever, photography, editing, there's a part where you're like, no, I'm not going out. No, I'm not answering the phone. No, I'm not available. I don't care what's happening. I need to get this idea right. I need to get this journey to a certain junction before I can stop for a second. And if you interrupt that flow before it gets to its own natural stop, you compromise the creation itself. Because it's kind of like there's an inertia that happens when you're running, right? You start off running and then you end up in a jog and then you have a certain rhythm that you have. Well, if you just stop to pick up a piece of paper, you just ruin that entire, energy that you just spent the last half mile creating. And so it's the same thing when you're creating, works of art or pieces, that you have to be selfish. You have to say no. You have to be, I'm not available. Go away. Stop talking to me. And that's when the art comes to life, so.
Like, people need to understand there's a sacrifice.
Yes.
And yeah, I get that. And, people who may not be into the arts or understanding why, they may think you're being antisocial, or they may think that who does he or she think they are. But it's just that single focus that you need to have. And it's important that you capture things while things are flowing.
Absolutely.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that's important for individuals that want to do or be part of the creative process, is that sometimes there's a level of selfishness that has to be, that you have to be in order to get things done and
Absolutely.
to be disciplined.
And that's with anything, even if you're pursuing a PhD or whatever it is, whatever pursuit it is that you have, there's a point where you have to say, I'm working on this. And that's all I'm working on. And so it's important to the art to do that.
And how long was the process?
Well, I had a manuscript deadline of March, I think it was, end of March, where I had to have this done or else I could risk not getting my book published at all. So one thing about publishers, they're not going to let you have your creative process, but that creative process is only going to go for so long, because people have lives and their agendas, and other authors are trying to get out. And so I think my manuscript was due end of March. I had from October to March to write it. And so I started in December, basically January. And so I ended up writing the whole book in like 3 months. And then we started the editing process. So I basically got it onto a page. And then after March, we started editing. And then we ended up putting it out like the December of the following year. So
now that you've been through this process, if you were to do it again, and we're going to touch on that because I'm making an assumption that you will, but we'll let you talk about that.
I'm doing some things.
What would you have done differently? Is there anything you would have done differently? I guess there were some learning points, obviously, that maybe would not have happened if you wouldn't have gone through certain things.
I wouldn't have done anything differently because the book did well. The story is one that I'm very proud of. One that my mother was very proud of.
And then I want to ask you that. Did your mother get the chance?
Yeah. She read the book. She got the manuscript. So my mom at the time was 93, I guess. So we had to print out the book in like big, large font and put it in a binder. So she didn't get she did get the small finished book, but we had to make it big so that she could flip through it and read it. So she got the book early before we went to press. She got the final manuscript and she read it. And one of the greatest compliments she gave me is she says, "You got it right. Everything is right." And so, and it's funny, because she would read the book and then she'd have this big pen. She's been using these big pens since I've been alive. So she'd have this big pen, and then on the side of the manuscript, it's all paragraphs, of course. She's check marking each paragraph. So she's reading a paragraph, she'd read it, she maybe circle something and then would check it. And so I said, "Why are you checking?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm just checking to see, looking at everything." And she said everything was right.
And I know your mom, Sister P, as we affectionately call her. Yeah. Like, if it wasn't right, she's going to tell you.
Oh, she's going to ask. There was one scene where Goddie is running, and the way I had it written was she went down, we'll call it road A, and then she turned right on road B and go down. And she had the courage, she says, "You would never turn right down that street. You would turn left." And then when I went back and looked at the map, she was right. You would have to turn left to get to the port, not right. Right would take you to the cemetery or whatever. That's how accurate she was. Like when she was reading it, you'd never turn right. I'm like, "How do you know?" She goes, "I know." So I had to literally go back and change it and be like, she turned left and went down whatever street, and then I had to rewrite that piece.
And I think it's important to recognize your mother was a professional. Like, she was a nurse.
Oh yeah, 40 years.
For 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to ruin the stuff that's in the book, but you talk about all of that
Oh yeah.
and how she got where she got and how she was able to support her family and the
Mm-hmm.
sacrifices that she made
Mm-hmm.
and the love that she had for her family. And it's an amazing story, and she was an amazing woman.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I'm glad. I wasn't too sure if she had the opportunity to actually read the book.
Oh yeah, she read the book. She read the book before it went to press. So, and that was the other thing too. I'm glad you brought it up. So, you asked me, so what is part of the motivation of writing this book or getting it out? Well, to be quite honest with you, I didn't have a lot of time because when your parents are in their 90s, all bets are off. Anything could happen where they could, pass. And I wanted her to at least see and read the book or read part of the book while she was alive. So I had to put myself on a very strict timeline. And then, of course, New Degree Press put me on a strict timeline that said I had to get this book out within a year. And so, that was really my motivation, is to get it to her in her hands within 12-month period as best as I can. So once we had that manuscript, I said, I said to, Richard, let's print it, let's run it, and let's let her see it. And then even when she saw it, I think we still had some more edits, but she read, it was pretty much done from her perspective. So, yeah, I wanted to get to her before she passed, quite frankly. So, I stayed there as many nights. I stayed up late. Like, you cannot afford to wait another 2 weeks. Anything could happen. Write the book. And so I had to literally write the book.
And now the book has done well.
Book did well, yeah.
And now, can you talk about like where the book is? Like, I know obviously you could find it in your bookstores and online, but you guys have done something a little bit more with it.
Well, we've done a few things. Yeah,
I know that it's in. I'm going to let you talk about the schools and all of that.
Well, we did a few things. So one of the things that we did was there was two things that I wanted to try and accomplish with the book. Obviously, write the book and finish it and let my mother see it. But once she had it and she was pleased and everything, then I was like, you know what? We need to put this story in a arena where it can be read by others. And so one of the first things we thought about was doing an audiobook, and not just any audiobook. Richard jumped in because he's so talented in this area. He helped produce we did like a live performance audiobook. And so what we did is we got with a narrator out of Los Angeles named Angel, and then we hired actors to voice the book. So if you think of the old school radio programs where it's almost like a play on the radio, well, the audiobook is literally a play. And so all of the interactions between the characters are done by live actors. We hired live actors out of London, live actors out of Jamaica, and we produced the book. And what ended up happening, Richard did a phenomenal job. So,
and you keep saying Richard. For people that don't know who Richard is, your brother.
Richard's my twin brother. So Richard is my older twin brother. I mean,
older twin.
It's 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes. We got to let him have his 20 minutes. So he is my twin brother, and he spent the last 25 years, maybe 30 years, producing events, producing albums, really artist management, really just being in the artist and entertainment arena in many different facets. So this was really something that came natural to him.
So Robert, the next question or something that I want to ask you is, where can people find the audiobook or the book? What are you guys doing? Like, what's the next level, or where are you guys going next with all this? Because I'm hearing some great things that it's in some of the curriculum at schools and so forth. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So obviously the book is out. It's in major online distribution networks. So obviously your Amazons and other international distribution mechanisms. So you can find the book if you Google it. We've also developed a literature curriculum that we've been able to get into the Toronto school system and some of the surrounding regions. Still penetrating that, but it's been received quite well. Richard did a phenomenal job producing that and producing materials around that. We have a full curriculum course along with videos, tests, and all kinds of things that would go into a normal school curriculum that we've been very proud of. And then also too, as you know, we produced the audiobook, which again, Richard did a great job on live voices that was nominated for a Silvas Award a couple of years ago. So we've been really able to take this story and really stretch it in a way that allows folks to be able to experience the journey of Goddie through different mediums, and we're very proud of that. So as we move forward, we're going to be taking this starting from the middle message and really crafting it and inspiring people to help them navigate their own starting over from the middle journey, if you will. Goddie had to do that when her parents died. She had to do that when she had to immigrate to England. She had to do that again when she came to Canada. And so we all go through this sort of restart from the middle. We don't get the chance to go from the beginning. And so we want to be able to inspire people to understand what that means. And we'll be, doing that in many different forms coming up. So we're happy about it. And then also too, the Goddie Scholarship in partnership with George Brown is something that we are very proud of. So we set up a scholarship fund for nursing students for the George Brown College here in downtown Toronto. It's a partnership that we're very proud of. It's an annual scholarship. So far, we've been able to give scholarships to over 10 students so far. We're going into our third year, and we're just so proud of it. It's one of those things that, when you give a student money to help with whatever it is that they need to spend it on, and know that this is continuing the legacy of immigrant Canadians that are coming in to pursue their dreams. This is what my mom would want. And we are going to continue that as long as we can.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear about, just being in the curriculum in the school system here in Toronto. And I'm sure it's going to expand to other areas in Canada. I'm sure. But that was so great to hear.
Yeah, we're very proud of it. It's fully done. We've got author videos, author perspectives. We've got anything that you'd want to learn about Caribbean life is in this curriculum. And so we're very proud of it.
That's awesome. And now the scholarship, which is, it's passing it forward. Like you are just helping another generation.
Absolutely.
And I know that your mom would really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, we are very proud of the scholarship, and we're proud of what it's doing and the work that George Brown's doing. So we do that gladly.
So what's next for Arthur Robert Picart? What's next for you? You did this great book, and so a lot of people are wondering, okay, what is he going to do next?
Percolating a new book, focusing on helping people, focusing on looking at this idea of starting over and what that means. We're entering into a time now, especially in the United States where I live now, where people are having to start over. Federal workers are being put out. Documented and undocumented folks are having to start over based on different things. Corporate society is starting to contract now, so people are having to start over in terms of their skills and what have you. And we identify with that very clearly. And so being able to help someone with the framework of what it means to pick up the pieces and try something different or do something new is something that's not easily found. It's not a natural reflex for a lot of people. And so whether we're talking about financial, whether we're talking about relationship, whether we're talking about branding, being able to start over from the middle can be a tough thing. And we're putting some ideas around how we can help people do that.
You have me curious in terms of putting some ideas together, but that sounds exciting.
Yeah. We want to be able to help people. My mom was in the helping business. And so and there is no better tribute than to be able to take the lessons of what you've learned and to be able to help inspire other people to move forward in their life. We're very proud of that. We want to continue that as much as we can. And then there's some other things that we want to do to continue the Goddie story. I've been thinking about doing some writing from a manuscript standpoint and a script standpoint to see if we can film some things. So there's some things that we're not fully prepared to talk about yet, but I would say that we want to take the story and really interpret it in different ways, in different mediums, and really bring the story forward. There hasn't been a Canadian story that really, there's more now in recent years, and with some of the film work that's coming out, some of the short stories and film work that's coming out that's articulating West Indian stories and immigrant stories. And we think we may have a contribution that can also be a part of that as well. So, so hopefully we can get there.
Okay, absolutely. That sounds good. So once again, it was great having you on
Thank you.
and for us to talk. And we did a lot of talking off camera because we haven't seen each other in a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm just so happy. I'm so proud of what you've been able to accomplish. And a lot of people don't know, but we've known each other going back 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds.
So that's 40 years.
Long time. So to see everything that you've been able to accomplish and do is amazing to hear. It's a testament to your hard work. It's a testament to your upbringing, your mother, and the family that surrounded you. So I'm wishing you all the best moving forward. And I can't wait to connect again to talk more about some other things that we have in common or interests that I definitely want to get your perspective on. And, looking forward to any new projects with Goddie and anything else new that you may be thinking of. So
no, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Lots to do. We're not done yet. And it's obviously a blessing to stay connected and to be able to share this. So I appreciate it. And I thank your audience for listening.
Once again, thank you, Robert, and take care.